Today we will talk about XRP and the ILP and how it is infinitely scalable. Here we have an explanation of the expectation of the application of that scalability. That was a strange way to explain that, so I will just have him do it.
We configured our technology in a way that really fixed the problem of cross-border payment security very, very well. So for the cross-border payment challenge, we created an open internet model. We called the idea Interledger. So Interledger, like the internet, supports our Ripple technology globally. And that model does not require a single universal common blockchain. It requires a very open blockchain interconnectivity. And that means that the volume is theoretically infinite. It's not, the internet never runs out of capacity. Elements do, but the internet still works because it's inherently decentralized. So Ripple is the same. So we have a decentralized model which is infinitely scalable. Supporting that, we have our liquidity proposition, which uses XRP, and that's a classic blockchain. But XRP was designed from the outset for transacting. So unlike the likes of Bitcoin, which is like very slow and slows down as you continue to build on volume, the XRP model is very, very, very high speed and very high capacity. So the liquidity part is very adequately served by the XRP model. The wider network we're creating, where if you're really going to create something of value for 7 billion people in the world, or 9 billion by 2050.
And that was in response to a post talking about how the XRPL can scale to trillions of TPS because of the ILP and payment channels. And I will come back to that here in a bit. Ripple was designed with scalability in mind. And that was primarily because of who they were intending on working with at the start, with examples of Santander, which I am aware I'm not pronouncing it right, and Bank of America. Here is how Ripple actually approaches things. It's all about revenue streams, customers, value propositions, and activities to diversify income. And it's not talking about retail customers, it's talking about institutional. So how exactly do they profit? Well, a lot of it comes down to payment fees. Financial institutions and companies that use Ripple's payment network pay fees on each transaction, and its costs are determined by the value and volume of all of the transactions. And it is a hot topic, but I think we all know that one of the ways that they make money is by selling XRP to institutional investors and market participants, which is institutional and not retail concentrated. I don't really understand why people are complaining about the XRPL not being a retail friendly network when it wasn't really ever intended as one. And the key thing is that the institutional sales help fund its internal operations until it ends up at a point where the fees created by the payment network itself are able to keep up. But that will come once we get regulatory clarity and adoption, and these kinds of institutional entities are clear to participate in these kinds of payment networks, which will mean that these institutions will purchase more XRP and will use XRP more, which will take it off of exchanges and create a demand increase as the supply goes down, which could ultimately end up with XRP at a high price. Ripple's income generating customers are institutions, corporations, exchanges, remittance service providers, central banks, and developers. It was not intended for retail, even though there are applications of that. And that comes back to my ideas on how things like XRP and XLM are not really intended for more everyday retail customer applications. Each of the networks have been designed to attract enterprise and institutional customers. In 2024, we think that there will be initiatives in the EU India, Brazil, Mexico, Hong Kong, UAE, and Thailand to offer an alternative to SWIFT. Retail banks will have to update their technology to process CBDC transactions at scale. And it just so happens that two of the most scalable networks out there are Stellar and the XRPL with the help of the ILP. So here we get into the scalability of the XRPL, and it is confirmed that the XRPL can hit massive TPS. In fact, trillions of TPS. XRP's on-chain speed is about 1500 TPS, but that's not why it is scalable. It is scalable because of an option called payment channels, which is designed into the protocol itself, which will allow organizations to process trillions of TPS while settling all of them on the XRPL. On top of that, the ILP can work with these payment channels to process XRP payments. And an interesting thing about payment channels, as I've talked about with Stellar, is their Starlight platform, which is a payment channel network that uses XLM to increase scalability. Of Ripple's products now rely on the ILP more than the XRPL in some ways. Because the world would never agree on one ledger, the ILP was created to synchronize payments between different ledgers, powered by XRP, which is a pretty controversial topic at this point, but I will talk about it a bit more here. Here is a post about the ILP with XRP, and if you zoom in, it does talk about XRP payments here and the XRPL with XRP, and it's hard to see. I'm not exactly sure where it came from. And here it talks about how to integrate the ILP with XRP, which is this connector here, which I guess is some kind of an API, or it is a GUI actually. So Moke was talking about the trillions of TPS, and I asked, wouldn't that take away from the XRP can't be cheap talk? Because if you can conduct a near infinite amount of payments, why would the price need to be high if the same XRP can be used over and over again? The burn rate would be the price driver in that case. And the response was that the burn rate is not just an idea, it's an actual mechanism built into the XRPL to make XRP a deflationary currency, which I understood that, and I just don't think I asked it right. But my points were that the burn rate itself hasn't had a ton of price impacts in the calculations I've done when I was talking about XLM. However, if we are talking about millions or even trillions of TPS, then that burn rate would add up. And as I talked about earlier, once you get regulatory clarity and adoption, then all of these institutions will be holding or could hold XRP for their own participation with the ILP and XRPL and all of the networks that connect in order to conduct all of these transactions, which might take a lot of the supply off of exchanges. And when you don't have XRP and you know that these institutions are using it, that could make XRP a very, very high demand product, and the supply and demand alone could result in a much higher priced XRP. How high? I don't think anybody can accurately predict that at this point because it is so supply and demand based. I have not come up with a great way to just type it in an equation at this point in time, but we could be hypothetically talking about prices in the tens, 100s, or even higher. And here is a really good comment from 8-Bit. If a coin is worth $1, then the most value that can be transacted at any moment is the number of coins in circulation, which is about 55 billion right now. If half of those are in cold storage with the same value transacting, now it is worth $2. If we toss in speculation and burn coins and an increasing amount of real-world application of the network itself, and with the fact that Ripple's stablecoin is in the works right now, which makes it a lot easier to on-ramp fiat into the XRPL, then that supply and demand could go way, way up.